Hi guys, I'm Maya Wakeham. I'm going to start by sharing my screen real quick with you. Let's do my presentation. All right, so I'm Maya Wakeham and my partner for this presentation is Emily Ketchmark. And our topic today is going to be visual impairment. So visual impairment, what is it exactly? So visual impairment is when a person's eyesight cannot be corrected to a normal level. So most of the time, visual impairment is when somebody has loss of their vision or has partial vision to it, and they don't have the normal level or cannot get back to the normal level that usually people have when having vision. How common is visual impairment? So about 94% of Americans that are of the ages 12 and up have good vision. But of course, there is going to be about the 6%, which is about 14 million Americans that are visually impaired. So visual impairment is less common, but it still can affect many people in America and across the world as well. When it comes to visual impairment, there isn't a cure for it. Having low vision or no vision at all is usually permanent. And you can't really have it be fixed by using glasses, surgery, or medicines. It doesn't improve the damage at all. But there are ways to make sure that the damage doesn't get worse and it could stay at the level that they're at. And they can do this by wearing protective glasses or doing activities like therapy and such for their vision. So when you are using visual correction, it's usually going to be with glasses and contacts. So if you can see on the screen here, I was doing some research and found a couple of things for statistics on race and age and poverty levels that do use glasses and contacts for visual correction. Of course, we know that glasses and contacts can be an expensive thing to use for the vision. But I thought showing these kind of percentages was kind of interesting. So if you can see on the left-hand side for races, it kind of ranges. They're all kind of in the same area for percentage-wise on the percentage of people that use glasses and contacts. But if you can see there, other races most of the time are at the highest level for using glasses and contacts compared to the lowest is going to be, of course, you can see on there. And then I saw for ages, as on here, surprisingly, 60 and plus was the lowest for using glasses and contacts. Because I feel like most of the time you see most older people wearing those, but it was honestly the younger ages that were using glasses and contacts more for visual correction. And then you could see on the poverty levels as well. These were, of course, on the poverty level. The ones that are over the poverty level do have the highest percentage of using glasses and contacts. So having low vision, like I said, is usually permanent. And then the ways to not make the vision worse is by the activities and stuff, or using glasses and contacts like I show on the statistics right here for all those and who uses it.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Ketchmark and my partner for this presentation is Maya Wakeham, and our subject is visual impairment. So to start off, what are the characteristics of visual impairment? So for babies and children, they have very similar symptoms and they have some differences. So for babies, a lot of the times their parents will notice that their eyes move quickly from side to side or they wander randomly, and their eyes don't follow your face or an object, and they don't seem to make eye contact with you or family or friends, and their eyes don't react to bright light being turned on in a room. And a lot of the times their pupils will seem white or cloudy rather than black. And family members a lot of the times notice this when they take pictures of their child. They'll notice a difference in their eyes and their color. And a lot of the times their eyes will turn inwards or outwards. And for older children, a lot of times they will hold things up close to their face in order to see what they're looking at. And they'll say that they're tired a lot of the times and rub their eyes a lot, and that can cause their eyes to become chronically red. They may turn or tilt their head or cover one eye when looking at things up close. And they'll get tired after looking at things up close for a long time, like reading or writing. And they seem to do better during the day than at night. And they may cross their eyes a lot or squint. And something that family members notice a lot of the time is that they come off as very clumsy. So a lot of times they'll kind of knock things over or run into walls.
Now, here's some more interesting statistics on visual impairments. An interesting thought that I saw when doing some research was researchers believe that in the next 35 years, so that will be around like 2050, visual impairment will actually double in America. And this can have a really big impact on society and individuals that are dealing with visual impairments. I'm sure the impact on society will be that there will be more facilities, I'm sure, that will need to be built and more workers to be able to do, help people that are dealing with visual impairment, or just in general, it will be hard to find. If it doubles, people will have a hard time finding jobs and stuff like that if they're having to deal with it. And then especially affecting individuals themselves, having to go through having damage to their eyesight and needing therapy and stuff like that to be able to either just keep it so there's no more damage or try and improve it in a sense. So statistics down below that you can see. I definitely wanted to include students that were in this, and then some of the ages and how many girls and men and women and boys and the ages that do deal with visual impairments. So as you can see, students on there's about 60,000 students that deal with visual impairment. Down below that, I kind of put the areas of percentage-wise of these, how many students in certain areas are dealing with it. So if you could see education, just general education deals with the highest percentage. And then you have school for the blind, rehabilitation facilities, and then students that deal with multiple disabilities, including the visual impairments, was the 2.3%. Now, with the ages from 4 to 20, there's about almost 700,000 kids that deal with visual impairments. There's definitely more, so you can see on there, more boys than girls that do deal with visual impairments. And then if you go to the right side from 16 to 75 and older, there's more women than there are men that do deal with it. And then below you can see the ages 18 to 64 and then 65 plus. There's about 3 million for around that age. And then surprisingly lower for 65 plus. There's about almost 3 million, but still that 2 million area.
So what is the most challenging part of having visual impairment? Visual impairment can be challenging for students, not just with school, but with everyday tasks in life. Everyday activities like walking can be difficult with not seeing what is in front of you, or walking on uneven surfaces and having to use stairs going up or down. And simple things, even like eating and drinking, can be hard as well, with trying to cook or feeding themselves. And socializing can be tough as well because visually impaired individuals have difficulty identifying faces or objects, and it can be hard for them to read body language. For children, doing schoolwork can be challenging with having difficulties with reading, writing, and completing assignments. It can delay a child's learning if not given the resources to help accommodate their needs. So using other senses like taste, smell, and touch has helped guide visually impaired children into learning different methods with using their other senses. For example, if they are learning shapes, they can learn by holding different shaped blocks and using their hands to feel the edges to determine how many sides there are and learn in that way on what the shapes are. So trying to learn in school while being visually impaired can be very frustrating and overwhelming for students. You have to give lots of support and reassurance to these children to feel confident and successful in their learning and doing everyday tasks. For parents, it can be upsetting for them as well with trying to make their child feel normal in a sense and worrying about their child's future and finances, as well as their psychological health and well-being. It can cause disruptions in their daily lives at home and within the community. So for parents, it can be upsetting for them as well with trying to make their child feel normal in a sense and worrying about their child's future and finances.
Okay. So, types of ways that I was doing research on for teachers meeting the needs of visual impairment. So, definitely like what we learned in class, you can start by doing an IEP 504 plan for that student that is dealing with visual impairment. I think it's really important to kind of get a setup and a plan, have the parents involved of how you can help the student in class and the type of um, activities they'll be doing and the classes they'll be doing and who they'll be working with. I definitely think having a organized open classroom for that student is really helpful. You don't want it to be cluttered and messy so they have a hard time getting around. You definitely want it for just everyone in general, all the students, especially those students dealing with visual impairment, for it to be a clean, organized, clear classroom for them to work in. I definitely think the most important thing is you want that student to feel accepted by their classmates and by the teacher and not feel like they're different than everybody else. So I definitely think having them working with others is super great, working in groups. Being independent as well is really important, but I think working with others, they don't feel, lonely in a sense or feel like they're different is super important. I think there's going to be times where the student is going to miss class, maybe doctor's appointments or certain things like that. So I think having individual game plans for missed time is important. If that's emailing their parents the work they need to do or what they missed in class, or just giving that student extra time to be able to catch up, certain things like that, I think is great. Of course, which we did a big part in our learning in this class so far, is having assistive devices. And I think it's great to have activities that could be done at home as well. Maybe it's a website that they use where they can do their activities online and the teacher can see the activity in the time they took to do it. And even just having assistive devices in class as well. And some of those things could be like the large, if you're going through a book, they're large print books. So they have a easier time being able to read what's in front of them, having magnifiers to be able to read if there's not, the large print books. Stuff like that in general, I think is great, or having audio book reading for the student as well. And then seating arrangement. I think it's important, the child can be moved around from the front to the back, but I think especially if they have a visual impairment, maybe they should sit more towards the front so they can have an easier time being able to read things that are going to be on the screen, or if the teacher is writing on the board, they'll be able to see it better and stuff like that. I always think that's important. So I think these are great ways for teachers being able to meet the needs of visual impairment students.
But luckily, with IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Act is there to help your child and work with you to find the best path for them in their learning and day-to-day life activities. A team of educators, service providers, specialists, or counselors will work with you and your child to meet their needs. There is no cost to families, and parents have the right to give or deny their consent before any action is taken in their child's educational program. Parents can request an evaluation at any time and have a meeting on what their goals are and how they are doing in their educational learning. All educational records are confidential, and parents will receive a complete explanation of all the procedural safeguards available under IDEA and the procedures in the state for presenting complaints. So the educators will give you many resources to help guide you in your child's learning and any extra help you may need.
Now, I really liked looking up this stuff, but I found 2 resources that were for visual impairment. So I did a national one and a local one as well. So for national, I actually found Dreamscape Foundation. I thought they were great. So Dreamscape Foundation is a national foundation. They provide accommodations to Americans affected by sensory impairments like visual impairments. They like to work with people pursuing their education and life fulfilling work. They also put funds towards finding a cure for visual impairment. So I thought that was great that they worked with individuals to become more independent dealing with their visual impairment. But they definitely on their website had three main goals for their foundation. So the first goal was they want to restore independence in people that are dealing with visual impairment, which I think is amazing. So they can be able to go to school by themselves, have a job by themselves, live independently and stuff. They definitely want to provide knowledge and resources to those that are dealing with visual impairment, and not even just and people that are dealing with visual impairment, but people just in general. They want to provide knowledge as to what it's like for people that are dealing with visual impairment. And they're always finding resources to fund research and finding a cure and helping with other sources for visually impaired in that sense. So I thought that was great as well. Now for a local resource, it's called Arizona Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Let me look on that real quick. So their main things, they've been helping, they've been open since 1947, helping individuals that deal with visual impairments. So it is a team of professionals that help people through rehabilitation, and they do use state-of-the-art technology to be able to do that, which I think is great. And they as well help people that are living in Arizona that are dealing with visual impairment. They help with their independence. So being able to work, go to school, and participate in society. So I think both of these foundations are great. They're both very easy to access and stuff like that, especially for people that are in Arizona, and then the national one as well. They're both very similar. But I think they both do a great thing with helping people dealing with visual impairment to not feel lonely and feel like they can be independent and do things for themselves. So that's my part of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed.
And here are my resources. Thank you for taking your time to listen and view our presentation. My resources are listed here. Thank you. Bye-bye.